Hello viewers. So in this series we will be discussing about the naming of organic compounds. So before starting the class, I will consider that every one of my audience knows about some basic stuff. For example, what organic chemistry is, and what is alkane, alkene, alkyne. This basic stuff. Okay. So before we jump into the naming first, we will be discussing about the foundations of naming, like some basic stuff to name it properly. Either it be IUPAC system or trivial system or derived system or any kind of system. We have to know some basic stuff to name it properly. So in this class is dedicated to those basic stuff. Okay. So now let's jump into it. Okay, before before we go in details, let's talk about carbon. Okay, so which carbon, what an alpha carbon is, what is alpha carbon, what is alpha hydrogen, and what is beta carbon. Okay, let's start with a classical example. For example, we can take butanol. Okay, so butanol contains four carbons with four hands. I'll uh, write this in a split manner. So this is butanol. Okay, so which one is alpha carbon? What is alpha carbon, alpha hydrogen, and beta carbon? So the carbon which is directly attached with the functional group is known as the alpha carbon, and the hydrogen which is attached with the alpha carbon is known as alpha hydrogen. So this, if this is the alpha carbon, and with this carbon, these two hydrogen are attached, right? So these two hydrogen are the alpha hydrogens. These are alpha hydrogen. And what is beta carbon? The carbon which is attached with alpha carbon. So here, this particular carbon is attached with the alpha carbon, right? So this is termed as beta carbon. Okay, so we know what alpha carbon is, what alpha hydrogen is, and what beta carbon is. Now we will be discussing about the functional group. Let's discuss about what a functional group is. So functional group is the radical in an organic compound which determines and control the reaction of that compound. So uh, remember, each and every reaction that which will be happening in an organic compound, that reaction will occur in the functional group and nowhere else. The reaction will occur in the functional group. That's why it determines and controls the reaction of that compound. So let's know some functional groups. The first one is alkane. Okay, let me use the black color. So alkane are carbon-carbon single bond. And number two is alkene. This is carbon-carbon double bond. Number three is alkyne. This is carbon-carbon triple bond. And then we have alcohol. Alcohol, which is OH functional group. And alcohol has three different uh, varieties. I will talk about that later in this video, but we we will know the functional group first. Okay, alcohol. Number 5 is ether. Ether is bond O bond. Number 6 is aldehyde, which is bond CHO. Number 7 is ketone. Is bond CO bond. Okay, you can also write ketone like this. Number 8 is organic acid, which is bond COOH, or you can write it like this: C double bond O bond H. Then ester. Ester is bond COOR, which is alkyl, or you can also write it like this: bond C double bond O bond R. Then number 10 is nitrile group. Is bond CN. Number 11 is amide, which is CO bond CONH2, or you can also write it like this: bond C double bond O bond N H. Okay, so these are 11. We have more functional groups, and those are acid anhydride, which is number 12. Acid anhydride, which is bond CO bond O bond CO bond, or you can also write it like this: bond C double bond O bond C double bond O bond. Then number 13 is nitro. Number 13 is nitro. This is bond NO2. Then number 14 is acid chloride, which is bond COCl, or bond C double bond O bond Cl. Then number 15 is phenol, which is like this. So the last one is number 16, which is amine. This is bond NH2. Okay, and amine also has shows three different patterns. And now I will discuss about the alcohol and amine in details. Okay, so these are all of the functional groups for now. Okay, now let's talk about alcohol and amine in details. Okay, so when I say about alcohol, there are three different types of alcohol, which is 1-degree alcohol or the primary alcohol, 2-degree alcohol or the secondary alcohol, and last is 3-degree alcohol or tertiary alcohol. So what are those actually? So when I say about 1-degree alcohol, this is also known as primary alcohol. This depends on the hydrogen, how many number of hydrogen present in the alpha carbon. So in 1-degree alcohol, in alpha carbon we will find two hydrogens. Okay, for example, CH3 bond CH2 bond OH. This is ethanol, right? So here we can see that there are two there are two hydrogen in alpha carbon, right? So this is primary alcohol. And now the second one is 2-degree alcohol or the secondary alcohol. So in this secondary alcohol there will be only one hydrogen present in the alpha carbon. So remember what alpha carbon is, right? The carbon which is attached directly with the functional group. So this is, for example, we can say CH3 on CH2 on CH3 OH. So here we can see that this one is the alpha carbon which is directly attached with the functional group, and it has only one hydrogen on its side, right? So this is the secondary alcohol or 2-degree alcohol. And last is 3-degree alcohol or tertiary alcohol. So in tertiary alcohol there will be no hydrogens with alpha carbon. There will be no hydrogen with alpha carbon. For example, we can say that CH3 bond CH3 bond CH3, right? So this is 2-methyl, sorry, 2-methyl propanol, 2-methyl propanol 2. So here we can see that with the alpha carbon there is no hydrogen, right? That's why this is 3-degree alcohol or tertiary alcohol. Now let's talk about amine. The functional group of amine is bond NH2. Okay, so it has the types are literally simple and similar like alcohol. So this is one, so there are 1-degree amine or primary amine, or 2-degree which is the secondary, and 3-degree which is the tertiary. So let's talk about 1-degree amine. which is actually where we will find two hydrogens present with with nitrogen. Okay, there will be two hydrogen with nitrogen. In 2-degree amine, we will find only one hydrogen with the nitrogen, and another hand will be vacant, it will be empty. And 3-degree amine, there will be no hydrogen with the nitrogen, so the nitrogen is single in this case. Okay, um, and the last thing that I'm going to teach in this foundation class, for the foundation class for the naming of the organic compound, is the rule of splitting. Okay, so you will find something which is like merged, some compounds which are merged together. So for naming, for the purpose of naming, we have to split those merged stuff. So now let's know the rule of splitting. Okay, rule of rule of splitting. Okay, first of all, I will tell that you, in some organic compounds, you will find something like this. So what does it mean? It means carbon triple bond. So this is number one. Number two is, in terminal you will find something like this, CH3 bond. So if we split, we will get something like this, CH3 bond C bond CH3 bond CH3 bond. Okay, then number three is, you will find something like this, CH3 2 bond C, and if you split there, it will be like this, CH3 bond CH3 bond. Okay, just look for a minute that here there are three methyl, right? There are three methyls and there are two methyls, and in organic compound always the carbon's valency is 4, so there will be 4 hands. Okay, so there will be only 4 hands of carbon, not more than that, not less than that. So here we can see that in this carbon already has one vacant hand, and rest of the 3 hands contains methyl. That's what I did here. So one vacant hand, and the rest of the three hands contains methyl. Okay, so here also the carbon has two vacant hands, here also the carbon has two vacant hands, right? And the rest of the 2 hands contains methyl, rest of the 2 hands contains methyl, right? And then number 4, let's move to number 4, which is pretty obvious. This is C2H5, which is ethyl bond CH2 bond CH3. And so you will find propyl, which is pretty obvious, which is C3H7, which is also, which if we split we will get CH2 bond CH2 bond CH3, right? And last but not the least, which is uh, CH2, which is about methylene group. For example, there are 3 methylene merged together, so here there we can see there are 3 methylenes, right? So if we split, we will find 3 methylenes, CH2 bond CH2 bond CH2 bond. Okay, So if there are an if instead of 3 there, if there would be 4, if there would be 4, then we will add 4 methyl in here. Okay, so it goes so and so. It depends on the number, how many numbers, what is the number given here. Okay, so these are the rule of split. So these are some basic stuff you need to know while naming the organic compounds. For example, alkane, alkene, alkyne, then organic acid, many things. Okay, so these are all for today. Thank you. So I hope that you will stay tuned with me in the next episode, where we will be naming alkanes, and alkanes are pretty important for in organic chemistry. So yeah, goodbye.